So thank you all for joining our webinar today. I'm Nathan. I'm a PA at Workspace 365 based in Manchester. I'm a part of our global team, so I work with all of our partners across the UK, the Nordics and New Zealand. And I'm joined today by CEO and co-founder of Workspace 365, Eric Nicolai.
Hi, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. It's great to have you. So today we're going to be looking at the impact, the effects of complex IT environments and how the cost of inaction is having a negative impact on efficiency and productivity and disrupting user workflows. So lost in logins, tabs and apps. So if we were to take a look at the modern IT environments today, they consist of countless applications, numerous locations for document storage and company information. And companies seem to be rushing to introduce new solutions in the name of productivity and digital transformation. But now we've got to the point where this is having a negative effect on end users and organizations. So, Eric, if you look back at the 15 years of Workspace 365, and even further back in your experiences of IT, what's happened to get to the point where we are now, where businesses are overloaded with different applications and technology? And what's the impact that this has not only on the end user, but businesses as a whole?
Yeah, I think the question is quite interesting, Nathan, because you said what happened since we started the company in 2010. And I remember when we started Workspace 5 in 2010, we actually thought about the concept of having an all-in-one system where all the data would literally stay in one application. And I think this was in the days of ERP systems be getting bigger and bigger and more complete. And I think what has happened over the last 15 years is that step by step, applications has become focused and I'm not necessarily isolated, but applications really became point solutions solving let's say a single problem very well. If you look at our own infrastructure, right? So we have CRM, then you have signing apps, then you have a customer success platform, then you have a ticketing platform. So it's not that everything goes to one application. We all find best of breed tools and SaaS apps to serve the purpose. And as a company, as we are quite modern, as we only started in 2010, we have no legacy coming from different data centers. But so many companies today, they still have to maintain legacy applications that run in a different data center using virtualization technology. So I think the element from an IT perspective is that it became more and more complex to maintain and all, let's say, and keep the infrastructure together for all those different apps. But from an employee perspective, I'm expected to know and to understand where to go to get to this application. And I think if you look at the amount of switching people do throughout the day, didn't used to be a problem, let's say back in the days. But as we get more and more applications, the thinking of where do I go to find X, I think that is just increasing, getting more and more, let's say, challenging. So it is getting the data from different applications, make sure you understand where to go, but also how to find the information which is relevant for you.
No, of course, exactly. And also from a IT support perspective as well, I guess, what is the impact that this is having on those IT support teams with end users no longer being able to easily find these applications? And obviously with number of applications, there must be an increase in password tickets, lost passwords and lost documents. From your experience, what have you seen?
Yeah, so I think at the end of the spectrum, we see that customers who haven't implemented, let's say, a proper, let's say, employee experience thinking in the organization have a lower employee satisfaction rate on IT. And of course, the result, you get more IT tickets or support tickets. But I think you have to go behind what's creating a support ticket, because before an employee will log a ticket, they spend so much time trying to figure it out themselves. So there's actually a burden to create a ticket to ask for help, because they first try to figure it out themselves. Then they ask the people around them, and if they can't figure it out by then they kind of support and submit the support ticket. So I think if you only look at the support tickets, it's only a tip of the iceberg about the complexity people experience on a day-to-day basis. Most of the questions are not asked to the help desk. Most of the questions are asked to the people around them, and just losing time. And I think the time lost, it's a company obligation and a company responsibility. But every time you're in the right flow, you're doing your work, you want to get work done, every time you have to ask for help, you're out of the flow. So our goal is really to keep people in the flow and keep
Yeah.
them with the right work focus to really allow them to do what they want to do, is just get work done rather than thinking about challenging IT.
Yeah, of course. And obviously, as well, from a security perspective, what risks does this pose to businesses then, because of this?
Yeah, I think it's obvious, right? So if you go for very, let's say, simple way of sharing credentials is I think back in the days where people had one application, everyone knew the same username password. So it was eric@versity5.net, password 123. Everyone was logging in with the same details. And I think that is behind this, right? So it's we are behind the point that we understand that security is a super important topic in every organization. So we are trying to say, what do we need to do for password management? What do we need to do to kind of really make this secure? But I think
Yeah,
if you make it very simple, every time someone logs in, it becomes a risk, right? So if you can really reduce the amount of logins by people manually, then and you kind of automate it from a platform perspective, because systems can do things so much better than employees. And think about tokens. Like if you live in a two-bedroom apartment, as soon as you get into the front door, you can enter the other two rooms. If you live in a mansion with 21 rooms, as soon as you get to the front door, you can go to the other 21 rooms. And that's how I like to think about an organization, right? So the
yeah,
larger your organization, the more rooms you have, the more rooms you can enter. It's all about the front door. So keeping it safe, make sure the right people get into it. And the only thing is you need to have the right tokens to continue. Like think about
yeah,
the whole way of kind of data goes to the organization. You want to make sure that everyone gets to the front door is safe and secure.
yeah. Absolutely, completely agree. And I think as well with yeah, remote and hybrid working, there's also another layer of security risk, I guess, as well. But there seems to be quite a big debate at the moment about remote and hybrid working. But I think if you look at the trends, it is here to stay, and especially now that we've got Generation X, Gen Z coming into the workforce, it's going to be high in demand. So, what can business leaders do to facilitate hybrid and remote working without having that impact of complex IT, that legacy systems, and even reducing security threats for
Yes,
those remote
yeah.
workers?
So I think there are several elements, right? So the element one is to kind of say company policies, right? So as an
Mhm.
employee, you have to abide with the company policies to make sure the data is safe and secure, right? So period. So no question about
Yeah,
it. The only difference is that the generations you mentioned, they live in a time frame where all the apps they use on the personal level are super simple, very intuitive, and for them it's really connecting with everyone. But if you look at, let's say, the line of business applications, it's built from an era where applications are just very traditional built and require a lot of, let's say, manual entering, and a lot of, let's say, outdated way of working.
yeah,
So our thinking is what if we can just modernize the whole IT infrastructure, the IT application landscape, and really simplify the way we access information, the way we access application, where it becomes as simple as they work in their personal life and as they kind of get and consume data on their phone every single day.
no, exactly. And there's also an element of, from a communication point of view as well, like um, when people are working from different locations, it can be a challenge for organizations to make sure that they're also feeling engaged. So what what are the benefits of ensuring those remote workers and or yeah, those employees can still be connected to the organization, keep updated with important information from any location?
Yeah, so I think it's similar to what I mentioned before about your personal, let's say, life. If
Mhm.
if you are sharing stories with your friends and family, who just share your experience, right? So you don't have to call everyone. You don't have to give them an update at the end of your holiday. You just post your pictures and everyone knows about your holiday and you've done your job. And I think the
Yeah,
same within organizations. It's all about communication and getting to the right people. But I think defining the right people is often a challenge, like who needs to know what, right? So we like to think about, hey, who is in your target group? Who are the
yeah,
people you share knowledge with? Who are the people you have to communicate with? What's the knowledge you need to consume? So, and really allow you to get access to the right data. And it
yeah,
shouldn't matter if you are in the office, if you work from home, that data should be available regardless of your location.
yeah,
And I think about as a remote environment where everything is happening online, and additionally you also meet physically. But that's a
yeah,
difference rather than taking physically as a starting point, where you have to go meet face to face to get some data and to get some information. Our thinking is everything happens, and in an online world where everything comes together in a single workspace, we help you to get to the right data, to get to the right people, and to find the right information. And then on top of this, yes, you spend time together, because no system can replace human interactions, because that's not about data, that's just about building relationships.
No, exactly. Yeah, so I think we're going to turn it to the audience now. So I want you all to have a think about your current organization, and what percentage of your day do you feel like your staff, your teams are frustrated with their IT environments? Where do you see maybe some room for simplification? So as an example, if we look at one of our top partners in Europe within the healthcare industry, they found that a lot of their healthcare workers were having to use outdated legacy systems and do all their administrative tasks across multiple different applications. And what they found was that the workers were spending 40% of their time on these administrative tasks, rather than spending more time on patient-facing tasks, the more important tasks. So, Eric, we've discussed how digital transformation has left workers with overly complex IT environments, which is then having a negative impact, interrupting their workflows, decreasing productivity. I mean, if we look back at a healthcare example, workers were losing a lot of time due to outdated systems and multiple applications where they had to do their administrative tasks. How can organizations best adopt a digital workplace to reduce IT complexity and buy back time for end users?
Yeah, so I think it really starts with what's the problem you're trying to solve, right? So from Workspace 365, we like to think about it as a top angle is that we like to simplify everything to improve digital work focus. And if you explain this on a step-by-step basis, is how can we help you to simplify access to applications? How can we simplify communication? And how can we simplify workflows? So the starting point for most organizations we see on the day-to-day basis is really creating this single starting point. And when we spoke about passwords, when we spoke about logins, it's all about streamlining, simplifying, and not having employees to think, where do I go to? And I think that level of simplification is already a big win. But I think ultimately it's all about how can you really implement something for employees, which is not about a complex new system, but it's actually helping them to get more work done and to really see, hey, this is how I do this. And I think the great example from Adadale is that previously everything from an IT perspective was kind of faced and experienced as complex and not very, let's say, user friendly. And I think the way we implemented Workspace 365 for them was really about allowing employees to get and understand what's expected from them, to mitigate the risks and the impact of migrations, and really giving IT the space to, hey, on a day-to-day basis, we can just take migration step by step. And every migration is not impacting our employee and our workforce. And I think having that thinking that something you do is not impacting someone else, I think that was just groundbreaking for Adadale as an example.
Yeah,
And in general about complexity, I think over time as IT, we overestimate the IT savviness from our workforce. And because in the IT, we know so much, right? So we always know ways to figure it out. So taking a very simple way of doing things on your laptop, on your desktop, on your tablet, we always find our ways around it.
yeah,
But the average employee, if something has changed on the desktop, they're confused. If the
yeah,
color has changed in their office, they're confused. So the level of confidence we have to give to our workforce, so really you can't do anything wrong. We help you to make the right thing, to make decisions. And every mistake you make, it's fine, right? So keep on just trying. And I think
yeah,
in today's world, from an IT perspective, people just think, hey, if I make a mistake, what will happen? If I do this wrong, what will happen? If I
yeah,
copy this, I delete this, I lost the wrong version. So people are sometimes worried for no
mhm,
reason about the impact they do with the complex systems. So we
yeah,
all want to say, hey, how can we simplify the whole employee experience across the board with all
yeah,
your apps, with all your information, just to making it super simple again?
yeah. No, exactly. And I think the impact of that on the workforce is massively understated. And we did a research recently in the UK, where we questioned 1,000 participants from enterprise organizations, and we found a very large percentage were even considering leaving their work due to these overcomplicated IT systems. So if you look at, for example, a legal firm, which is, we typically see in the UK, they're quite traditional organizations that have, very outdated systems. How can these organizations really improve let's say, the impression end users have with their IT environments, and prevent that churn of that turnover of staff, I guess?
Excellent. Perfect example, Nathan. So the faster we onboard new colleagues, the faster they feel that they belong. And I think when we are going through an extensive hiring process of finding new colleagues, and then on the first day they show up, we just give them all those complex systems and don't have any clue how to do it. It's breaking their self-esteem, right? So it's breaking their confidence. And if you don't have the confidence to get work done, you won't succeed, right? So a chef in the kitchen, the only way is cooking the right dishes. It's just with self-esteem and self-confidence, so that he knows what to do. And I think when we see new colleagues being onboarded and we break their confidence, it's not only damaging for the relationship, it's also damaging for themselves. And they think, do I actually belong here? And can I just do it differently?
Yeah, no, exactly. And then I guess, because this is such a big challenge for organizations, and it seems like such an urgent thing that you would want to solve, why aren't businesses doing more now to give end users simple and easy IT environments?
Yeah, so I think there are several elements of this, right? So it's not knowing, so unaware. So I think many organizations don't know that can be done differently. But I think there's also an element of impact versus change resistance, right? So, okay, if we do this, what will be the impact, right? So if we change this, how would employees really be really happy, and how can we do this for the better? So I think managing those type of changes, that the impact for employees is actually much greater than we expect, and we really allow them to get in a kind of a better work focus and simplify many things for them. So it's about setting the goal. Our goal is to start simplifying your IT environment. Our goal is to simplify our IT landscape, and we're going to take a first step. This is our aim. This is where we want to go, but we are starting from here. So I think explaining why we do it, explain why this is important for the employee that we're going through this, and really share the end goal where we want to be. So I think many times we just go to the pain of migrations, or going through change without properly explaining why we're doing it.
Yeah,
And I think if we explain very well as an IT manager, as a communication manager, or a CIO, hey, this is where I want to be. I just find that within our organization, it's far too complex. We need to start simplification. I see you get frustrated on a day-to-day basis. Our aim is to help you to simplify this. And
yeah,
we're going to take a step-by-step approach. We're just going to start here. And let's say within 12 or 24 months from now, we want to be there. And we
yeah,
need your help. And together we can take this step by step. We're going to start with team A, then we take team B. And then this is how throughout the organization we start and continue to simplify everything.
yeah,
And I don't think it's a surprise that when we say everything simplified being our purpose, it's also with something we live by internally. So as an example, we celebrate simplification days every quarter, right? So we have one day where our complete aim for the organization is help us to simplify Workspace 55 as a company. And I think the level of thinking is about engage your audience to
yeah,
help, allow them to help you to kind of really say, really on the level of simplification. Please tell us what you find very difficult. So don't think for them, allow them to contribute. Say, hey, how can we help you on the level of simplification? What's the most complex for you on a day-to-day basis? And start
yeah,
with this, right? So don't think for them, ask them, engage with them, ask for their help, and really kind of celebrate those wins together. It's a company goal. It's a company celebration. It's not an
yeah,
IT win, right? So it's not IT doing something for them and they are off the hook. It's just something you do together.
yeah. No, brilliant. And I guess then, if you're a business leader now having a look at this challenge, I guess the big question is, what is the return of investment in implementing a digital workplace platform that would like, bring all our tools together? What's the return on investment if we have a more productive workforce from a financial perspective, I guess.
I think there are several ways of looking at this, right? So you can look at the cost of hiring. So if you look at people who are leaving the organization because they don't like the way the organization is organized or the way they are connected to the organization and engaged. So you can look at the cost of hiring. You can look at the cost of productivity. So what if people are getting more productive? And as a result, you say, hey, what if we use if we need less workforce, and especially with the pressure on the employee market, it's not easy to find the right talent.
Yeah.
So I think the element of hiring is important. The element of productivity is important, but also the element of how many people we need if we start to work more efficiently, which of course may differ per vertical. It may differ per country. So as you mentioned, the legal example, right? So people often are paid per hour by customers. So that's just they make money, but everything you have to put in the system is costing money. So you have to look at what's costing money and making you money as an organization. And we like to look at the things that costing you money, which is the admin stuff, because the customer facing stuff is making you money. So focus on customer facing stuff and let just the admin stuff be simplified.
Yeah, really good point. Really good point. And I think we'll now turn it back onto the audience again. So we're also curious to hear some feedback based on the challenges that we've outlined in this webinar. So if you do recognize these within your business, perhaps for yourself or for your teams, maybe something struck a chord and you think that you would benefit from a solution like this, then we would also love to hear your thoughts on that. And also on the contrary, if you don't see the value, if things that we've mentioned you don't really necessarily see as an urgent challenge to solve, we're also open to hearing your feedback on that as well. So please do.
I think to this point, Nathan, so I think a conversation about simplicity is what can we think of that could be simplified in your organization? I think that's a conversation we can learn from. It's a conversation we both can learn from, actually, because we learn something about either your vertical or your organization. And we might give you, we might be able to give you some tips and suggestions about how we see things happening with other customers, regardless of our platform Workspace D5, because we are just in this space working on this for the last 15 years. So sharing information is making us both smarter. So I think that's the conversation we should have. And a demo of a product is only useful if you know what you're trying to solve.
So yeah, thank you for your submissions there. So I have one final question for you today, Eric. With all the challenges that we have discussed today, why do you believe it is so urgent for businesses to take action now? And what happens if people don't take action?
Yeah, I haven't thought about the question, the cost of doing nothing. So I'm a strong believer that as a human being, we will only move from A to B if A really becomes unlivable, or let's say we really have to move from A to B if there is a critical reason. And I think for a very long time, we just tried to make A as a starting point more and more complex. And I think there has to be a point where we say we feel that it just became too much. And the cost of doing nothing is, in my mind, that employees won't be satisfied with working with an organization which is just not really employee focused on the whole employee experience. And I predict, and I think that is supported by many research from Forrester, from Gartner, that the employee experience becomes a critical factor for every organization to attract and to maintain talent. So if we want to be an organization where people love to work, we have to make sure we give them the environment, not only hardware, but also software and infrastructure that really allows them to flourish and to be successful. And that's not breaking their confidence. That's not giving them tools they don't like to and they don't understand. It's really supporting them and to do what they're hired to do.
So yeah, I think we've now just got some time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to fire them into the chat. We'll be able to answer them in due course. If you also have some questions for myself and Eric that you'd like to email us, you can also email us at nathan.hamilton@workspace365.net. So yeah, thank you all for joining today. I hope that you've been able to take away some information that will maybe change your perspective on how you see the impact of IT on end users. Thank you very much, Eric, for your time today. It's been great chatting to you and hearing your insights as well.
And thanks for hosting the session, Nathan. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for being the guest on this webinar. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Thank you.